You will fall in love with me. You will take me away from this place.
Full disclosure, news and commentary number 132, 132, 132, 132, 132. I hope you're doing well. Boy, wrestling, never boring. Never boring. Congratulations to Southern Honor right off the jump. 3 years. And it's been a tough 3 years just in general, right? So for them to come through on the other side and have a third anniversary show, it's just that in general is just really, really, really cool. What is our commentary about? It's about not selling out your dreams. What? And we're going to have a new feature called Dropping Dimes. You'll enjoy it. I enjoy it. I enjoyed coming up with the concepts. And it will become crystal clear to you what that's about when that time comes. APW, drawing 62. Man, let's just jump into it. Look at the... so, on Saturday, I thought, I'm not going to a wrestling show. There's no pay-per-views. But then, oh, no way. Impact is going to have this, the Knockouts, Knockdown, or whatever, the women's pay-per-view, which I watched and I did a video on. And then, of course, Moxley against Nick Gage, as far as that GCW show. So I watched them both simultaneous-like and enjoyed them both for very different reasons quite a bit. But, people like the clips that I throw in about stuff. This is Jon Moxley with a light tube bundle by his face, getting that light tube bundle kicked by Nick Gage. Not every spot came across great in this match, but this one most certainly did.
Boom, motherfucker!
Holy balls. That is crazy. Championship Wrestling from Atlanta. Of course, that report is up thanks to the venerable Larry Goodman on gwhnewsandnotes.blogspot.com. Had a bunch of people in the building. This time they learned. What did they learn from the first taping? We got to curtain this stuff off so it looks better. So the crowd that we've got, what do they still need to learn? Man, 4 hours is too long to watch wrestling. It's rough. And they probably, I would hope, would not do the thing where they saved the main events for the end. I get it in the sense that they don't want the crowd to leave. But boy, by the time 11 o'clock hits on a Thursday night, people are going to be leaving regardless if you're not careful. And they're not going to have the proper amounts of enthusiasm. So may I humbly suggest, once an hour you give them a piece of candy and give them one of those matches that they really came there to see. To me, I'm looking at that report, and it's cool to see so many names that I'm familiar with, but it's really weird to see just matches that are 3 or 4 minutes long. Now they're saying, oh, Steve, you don't get television. I do get television that I don't want to watch. And television I don't want to watch is usually filled with a bunch of matches that are seemingly of no consequence. But it's great to see the guys continue to wrestle, and apparently they have announced when they're going to do their next tapings, which is November 11th. And again, from what I heard, Marquez was complaining, like, how come there aren't more kids there? And Larry Goodman, when asked, I said, how many kids were there? And he's like, I counted, and there were 4. One, if it's Thursday night, it's a school night. How many kids are you going to get? I don't know. But I know you're not going to get more if you don't promote more. Pro tip, the Center for Puppetry Arts is literally a block away. If you really want more of a certain type of person in there, You got to promote to them. You got to make it happen. And if nobody's going to make it happen, then don't bitch. You get what you get, and you can't mind a bit. But Championship Wrestling from Atlanta, I'm still not sold, dude. I'm still not sold. Though I have a couple of the Shius in the DVR, so I will check them out at some point. I was excited to add MLW to my viewing this week. And again, I thought the opening match was very successful. I thought the main event had a lot of hype to live up to it, and there are aspects of it that most certainly did. It was also great to see our boy Mads Kruger all over that thing, though I think dropping that weird thing where all the internet marks and Dave Meltzer were talking about wrestling issues is a fucking horrible segment, and they need to take that out. They especially shouldn't do it when it completely kills and cuts out the momentum and the emotional impetus of the show. Take that shit out. That was horrible. It is one of the worst, if not the worst, wrestling segment of its kind that I can ever remember happening on wrestling. I said it. I was talking to friends about that. They agreed. Yes. The return of Pro South Wrestling. We're all happy about that. It's just not the same without you, Pro South. And let me throw this question out there. Since people who are in the wrestling business listen to the show. When are you coming back, Anarchy? I just want to know. When's the next Peach State show? What's going on? What's going down? Oh, here's a cool picture. That's the Barbarian and Ming. I just thought it looked really, really cool. It doesn't hide their age, but at the same time, there's something kind of glorious about this picture. I cannot emphasize this any more than I already have, but folks, take the pictures. Just take them. Take those pictures. Take them backstage with the guys. You never know when somebody's not going to be there. I'm sorry if that sounds really melancholy, but capture the moments. Do it. We have the means to do it, right? Ooh, I got my phone. That means you have the ability to take the pictures. People have noted that in the past couple of months, I've been putting up just pictures from the past, really, for my thumbnails, for full disclosure. And I'm glad I have them. Take the pictures. Wow, Women of Wrestling is coming back yet again. I was given the heads up to watch them on Entertainment Tonight. I will admit that I did not do that. However, I did read everything I could find, and it just amazes me that McLean can get bus. And if you think that's not serious money, it's the family that owns the Lakers putting up the money for this thing. I mean, this stuff's been going back and forth for 40 years. I just don't see where there's going to be a market for it, but it's certainly going to be no shortage of money. And if you know Nigel Sherrod, he's going to be part of that thing. And, of course, Dan Masters. And apparently Tessa Blanchard. Oh. And then AJ Lee's going to be an executive of some kind for it. So the money's real. Because, you know, AJ Lee wasn't showing up to that thing unless the money was real. So the money's real. So, I mean, it is going to be what it's going to be. Certainly curious. One thing I do not understand is why Mac Tonight, Tessa Blanchard, didn't just fucking apologize. Though, if her contention is she didn't say... Has anybody fallen quicker because of their stubborn indignation than Tessa Blanchard in the last 2 or 3 years? I don't think so. But maybe WoW will be a new lease on life. We'll see if they actually get shows going, what the deal is, etc., etc., etc. Let's talk about Southern Honor. 523. So did they meet my threshold of success of what I said they needed to get for their crowd? Yeah, man, they hit 500 and they slightly outdrew Rumblejack. All good news. And the usual cast of all the symptoms of success, right? People who were there 2.5 hours early to get tickets. A really into it crowd. These are all indications of success, right? An enthusiastic crowd. Owen Knight is the new champion. Corey Hollis Gunnar Miller match, which I heard nothing but great things about. In fact, once I can get a hold of that match, I'm going to do a side-by-side look at the two matches that I think right now have a clear shot of getting match of the year. And that is Nausism against Nick Halen in the end of their best of 7 series, and Corey Hollis against Gunnar Miller. I'm going to look at them back to back on the same segment, which I'm excited to do. When you got a match of the year candidate, that's good. There are a number of it. Here's my thing about the Southern Honor Show, and I can already feel buttholes tightening in Canton, Georgia. Because I talked to people who were there. I talked to people who work the show. And the one thing I think is noteworthy is the vibe. Whenever we had a huge show in PCW, and the shows that qualify especially is Sacred Ground, but we would have big shows otherwise, right? 11-11-11 will live forever. And, some of the July 4th Revolutionary War Game shows and the Masquerade shows. And then thinking about big shows that have happened for other promotions, right? Anarchy and Wildside certainly had their share. They would have like 4 big shows a year. Special events that have happened for various promotions throughout. Peach State has had their huge moments where they've had huge guests and that kind of thing. And one thing all of those things share in common, which I'm not so sure Southern Honor does, and again, I'm just pointing this out as a noteworthy thing based on things that I had heard, is that were the guys excited? Were the wrestlers like jacked up and couldn't wait to go out there and steal the show? Because when I looked at that report, correct me if I'm wrong, I saw Gunnar Miller and Hollis put on first, which was a huge mistake. I don't know. People can try to justify it to me any way that you want to. There's no way that match with that kind of gravitas goes on first. You don't do it. I get that AEW has gotten in the habit of putting on very big matches first. But again, a very different thing. They're trying to get ratings. They're trying to do all this stuff. An indie show that happens once a month is a totally different thing. I think gut punching people right off the jump and then having an unfollowable match is not the way to go. Just my opinion. But where were the matches that were trying to steal the show? I mean, we had the strap match, which is very long, 20 minutes, right? Oof. Where were the matches that were trying to steal the show? Because I didn't see any indication of that happening. And where was the excitement level from the guys? Here's symptomatic stuff when you can tell where people are really taking a promotion's big show seriously and it has infected them. Do they come there with just a sort of this workmanlike attitude of like, yeah, let's get this show done, let's do this show? Or are they hyped? Are they getting new gear for that show? Are they getting there early? Are they determined to really go out there and steal it? Is there that vibe of like, yeah, man, let's go out there and have the best match on the card? What about the fire up speech? And I'm asking this and I have no idea. Was there a fucking rah-rah, let's go get him speech? What kind of fucking big show doesn't have somebody giving a rah-rah, let's go get him speech? Beyond that, Southern Honor, I think, has done themselves a great service by having this show and having it go so well. And they had the documentary leading up to it, etc., etc., etc. I am curious what that means going forward. What's the angles? Who are the challengers? What's happening? I read that report, and really, for the life of me, I could not figure out where the fuck they're going. Who's challenging Owen Knight? I guess the natural thing is David Ali, but then David Ali announces that he's stepping away from Southern Honor for a while. Um, again, as the number one promotion the last 2 years, the Southern Honors show highlighted to me the fact that we are limping into the end of the year. I'll say that again. We are limping into the end of the year. That if everybody had like a stock ticker, Southern Honors, based on their last show, is going up, but there's no indication that November and December are going to go anywhere but down. And so they're going to end the year with a loss of momentum. Anarchy isn't running at all. Pro South just went on an extended break, and one hopes that they can regain the momentum. They certainly hope that. Peach State did have a shining, glorious moment of Ace Haven winning that title, but it feels like there's no follow-up. Am I wrong about any of this? In fact, if I had to say, who are the groups whose stock has raised significantly this year? PCW, who I think that there has definitely been a vibe of this show has gotten better and better and better, and they're booking more and more interesting stuff. IWE, Southern Fried did a great job throughout their thing, and they paid off the Manders Todd Sexton thing, and their first show back since that blow off, it gives strong indications that there's a number of directions that they're going, and I think that that's definitely good. But to put it bluntly, who's gonna fucking hit the end of this year hard? Who's doing stuff creatively that I can't stop talking about with people? I don't know. Who's got bragging rights instead of just having to sell us on stuff at the end of the year when awards come around? Now, there are individual wrestlers who I think can make the very strong case. But I'm talking about promotions and bookers and promoters. When you've got Gary Lamb saying, yeah, I haven't really been promoting. Thank you, fans, for doing the promotion for us. And he's the leader for Promoter of the Year? The self-admitted, I haven't really been doing promoting? Fuck a duck. It is interesting that people have been going to Mucha Lucha to check that show out, but not people who have anything significant to say about it. So you tell me, who's got the pepper? Whose stock is going up? Whose momentum is going this way? I'm happy that AWE is back, and they have their second show back this Sunday, but then I hear shit, right? I hear shit about like old problems returning, and I hope they aren't true, but it certainly seems that they are. Who's got the motherfucking pepper and got their shit together? Because there's a lot of wrestling going on, and there's a lot of cool stuff going on. And with AEW, WWE, both signing and using people from the Georgia area, all that's super exciting. I just want the scene to show me something and to inspire. So what's it going to be? The piece about Corey Hollis that Bill Behrens wrote was absolutely beautiful. It is splendid. You can find it on Bill Behrens' page or gwhnewsandnotes.blogspot.com. And Larry also wrote a nice little piece about the thing that they had during the Impact Women's pay-per-view about mental health and getting this thing about people removing the stigma, the bad stigma of mental health issues especially in the wrestling business. And I thought it was glorious, and Larry saw it and called me right away, and we talked about how great it was. It definitely felt really good to see that. And I saw a number of people post in regards to that as well. Logan Chase amongst them, sort of talking about their own mental issues. I think that's wonderful. I think it's really, really great. Corey Hollis, so the piece that Bill wrote is beautiful and it's wonderful and very comprehensive. I thought Bill wrote that thing with love, and it's hard not to love Corey Hollis if you know him. I'll just talk about my limited experience with Corey Hollis and PCW. Corey Hollis was a guy that I saw as, man, I want this. I want to use this guy, and I never thought of him as part of a clique. You know, I always just wanted like Corey Hollis to show his stuff. And in one of the matches at the Masquerade, you know, I try to give a little variety. I try to give a little bit of everything in a PCW show. Maybe it had a rep for a certain kind of thing, but the reality is, you know, people didn't think of PCW as like the work rate group, but yet who booked more 1 hour Broadways than me? 3, by the way. Does that surprise you? Best of 7 series. No one did them more than I did. And when Fred Yehai was going to make his first really big showing at the Masquerade, I had him wrestle Corey Hollis, and I said, you're going to go to a time limit draw, something I did rarely, and I just want you to just do a wrestling match. Just wrestle your hearts out. And Corey Hollis was always down for everything. Anytime he came into PCW, I considered it very fortunate. Because as you could see by Bill's article, he was really busy and he was getting out and about. So anytime I could get Corey Hollis to come in and do a thing, I was really happy to do it. And total pro, totally smart. I always thought that he's one of these guys that in a different world, in a different locker room, I think he could have been one of these guys that really put in a lot of ideas at Southern Honor instead of just kind of like throwing in ideas for his sort of inner circle. He's one of these guys that could do whatever he wants in wrestling. I think if Corey Hollis wanted to, you know, agent for the WWE, he could do it. I think he's very smart. I think he's that rare combination of a guy who's savvy, but yet kind. And I'm just always impressed with his ring work. Whenever I saw him in AEW, I would get very excited. Whenever I saw him at NXT, I would get very excited. So Corey Hollis, though, got a wonderful wife and a beautiful kid. And if he's stepping away from wrestling, I know other people are like, you know, hopefully he'll come back and blah, 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 blah. I'm of the opposite mind. If he's reached a place in his life where he can walk away from wrestling and live his best life, I'm all about it. And like I said, I don't think that about a ton of people, but I think he's one of these guys that could literally do anything in wrestling if he wanted to, in a sort of an office capacity. I think he could really do it. I think he's a guy who's got a lot of great ideas as well. Just a naturally smart, charismatic kind of dude. So I think a lot of Corey Hollis, obviously. Couple things to talk about before we get to the commentary. Reggie Parks, the maker of many a WWE title, UFC title, died recently. What does Reggie Parks mean to me? That guy I somehow talked into making the first PCW title. So that thing that they use for their championship, that's a Reggie Parks. And it's glorious and it's wonderful. And I'll just give you the story very briefly. Reggie Parks, we had a mutual friend, which is the only reason he agreed to do it. And he charged an amount far less than he normally would, but it was still not cheap because he's Reggie Parks. If you're getting 10 to 20 grand to do UFC title and WWE titles and stuff, and he's deigning to do this indie title, I had to pay something. It's certainly much more money than I've ever had at that time to spend on that kind of thing. But if I had a chance to get a Reggie Parks title, I was going to get it. And it's why the PCW title looks way better than everybody else's fucking belt. I said it. And Reggie Parks, when he heard about my design, that's when he was sold on making it, because I kept it very simple. Globe, Platinum Championship Wrestling, blah blah blah. And for the plates, I said I just want the flags of the countries from which pro wrestling is very important to them. United States, Canada, Mexico, Japan. And so he was very thrilled to do it. He goes like, I think it looks classic. And he goes, there's Platinum Championship Wrestling. I just needed it to be shiny and chrome looking with the black inlays. And he did it. And I remember receiving that thing in the mail when I was at a very low point where I was just like, this wrestling thing's killing me. And I got that title and I went, I guess we're just going to keep doing this shit. So that title has a great deal of meaning to me. And it wasn't until the Sacred Ground where Chip Day became our champion where we were going to have a new title. And both of those things are still floating around and they're still using them at PCW, and that makes me very happy. But yeah, just know when you see that PCW title, the one that's just chrome and black, that's a Reggie Parks. And if you don't know what that means, the next time the guys are around that thing, take a close look at that title. There is a marked difference in quality and craftsmanship, and Reggie Parks was the best, baby, and PCW got the best. I'm very proud of that. It's a really cool bit of like indie Georgia lore. We got the Reggie Parks. Yeah. Larry just let me know. Viral Pro Wrestling can't win for losing. Main event shot due to Black suffering freak collapsed lung. I'd heard that Montana Black had a kind of a freak injury. We, of course, wish him the best. Terrible thing. Really horrible. But hopefully he is okay and will get and recover quickly. All right. Drop and dime. Let's get the sound in there. Drop. I'm very proud that I figured out how to do that sound, and that shit's hilarious. Let's do the sound again, but this time with a graphic, because it will make me laugh, and then it'll force me to do it whenever I do this segment. Drop. Who we dropping dime on? Who we dropping dime on? IWN, we're dropping dime on you. So IWN, since I really went at them pretty hard in a couple of episodes, I thought the response would be people defending them. Instead, a bunch of people came and dropped dime. What do you mean, Steve? So I said a lot of bad stuff about their champion, how he was like sort of proudly, I think he's a Kiatsu trained guy, and he was sort of proud of the fact that he was a 12-month veteran and all that stuff. And the consensus was, your August Atross stuff is dead on. That guy is horrible. And he was trying to hit on this 50-year-old woman and bragging that he had the stamina of a 17-year-old. It was just so gross. Teddy Long is back there the whole time telling us IWN is not an independent promotion. Oh my God. Mac Davis continues to insert himself in segments with the Exotic Youth to try and be relevant, knowing that those guys could carry him. Wow. They drew 25 people at their show in Dothan, Alabama. The show the next night, they tried to tell us it was 25, but I counted and it was actually less, right around 20. Jeez Louise. They don't understand the booking. They're still hanging on to shit talent. Scotty Bullwinkle and Chris Nelms thing, it wasn't a match, it was just god awful. They continue to use Chris Nelms. I guess they don't care about the level of talent they're using on the show. Jeez. Yeah. All bad stuff. And apparently they got a new sponsor. So they found somebody else to continue to throw money into this thing and keep it going. So how's it looking for IWN? I just get the feeling that, I mean, and somebody admitted to this as much. It's like, now I'm just trying to get friends of mine booked on that thing so we can make some money before this thing goes belly up. So that is $1 worth of dimes. We'll see how the promotion that everybody's dropping dime on next week looks compared to IWN. So IWN right now is worth $1 of dropping dimes. Whew. Brutal, brutal, brutal stuff. Commentary. Okay. Don't sell out your dreams. What the hell do I mean? When you first thought about getting into pro wrestling, whatever age that was, what did you dream about? What was your inspiration? Was it enough for you to just wrestle? Now, there are people for whom that may be the case. That just getting into a wrestling ring and doing this wrestling thing was their dream. But for most, I believe that they would have the vision of getting signed or wrestling in front of crowds of significance or really getting to do this wrestling thing on a level that they think that you would dream about, right? But what ends up happening is sometimes you have to modify, right? I never got signed by a major promotion, so I had to move the goalposts just a bit. But I did get to captain my own ship, and I got to captain it well, and I got to train a crop of guys and women and book the shows I always wanted to book, and I got to be fucking great at it. And then I get to continue to be involved in wrestling. And that part's pretty great. Did I ever wrestle for shit promotions? Absolutely. When you're wrestling, and at one point I was wrestling minimum 3 times a week, as much as 5 to 7 times a week. On a couple of occasions, 8 times a week. When you're doing that, you're going to wrestle for a lot of promotions that I would consider shitty. But at no point did I consider that. No point did I delude myself into doing what I was doing. I did not go, this promotion is great. Now, I wrestled for promotions that would draw 400, 700, 800 more in shitty little towns, and they were shitty shows. The kind of shows where some fat dude is going to cut a promo before his match and after his match, and the shows are going to drag on forever, and they're going to have 2 intermissions and some kind of raffle and all this other bullshit. While I was happy to be on those shows for the experience and make that money, I was under no delusion that this was a part of my quote-unquote dream. It was a means to an end. And those means were not only money and getting a wrestling booking and getting experience in the ring, but establishing the connections that I was trying to establish and really doing this thing. But I didn't delude myself. I didn't go like that in and of itself was the dream. The dream was to get to a point where I was making a living doing it, which I was. I didn't say a great living. The kind of living only like somebody single in their 20s could call a living. Okay. I was much more pleased when I was sort of given the indication that I should open my own shit and whatever. And I did. I got to open a school. I got to run it. I got to train a bunch of people, and I got to run shows and the kind of shows that I wanted to do and teach a wrestling philosophy that I believed and have a bunch of people go along with the ride for me. And then I had other aspects of the dream. I wanted to get some notoriety in the area, Georgia, where I was, and that happened. And those Southern Honor claims in their documentary that they were the first to kind of... Please, every wrestling promotion that starts is fighting against the status quo. duh, right? Everybody did it. But I certainly did it. And I came up against very formidable competition. My competition was Anarchy and Rampage, right? When Rampage had television and they were winning all the awards, and Anarchy had the pedigree, and, you know, a whole these stars came through there, and they had television when that mattered as well. And who was I? Some pissant, and I would be gone in a month or a year or at Sacred Ground or whatever it was, and I'd not run anymore. And they ended up doing hundreds and hundreds of shows. Yeah. And that was the dream. Why am I saying this now? Because dreams in pro wrestling have never been more attainable, right? I would love to wrestle on television. Well, we've seen a number of Georgia people get signed. A number of Georgia people who made a good amount of money during COVID. Now, AEW Dark and all that stuff, they pay less than they used to, and now they're using a bunch of people based on the towns that they're going to, which makes sense. But you can still get in. You can go to the Nightmare Factory, get trained, and if you're any fucking good, you're going to get to make appearances on their YouTube show and subsequently probably on Dynamite at some point. That's awesome. We've seen people get signed to the like Anthony Henry had a WWE contract, folks. It's wonderful. And since he's not doing that anymore, now he's wrestling all this prominent shit on the indies again. And he'll probably get a look elsewhere. And that makes me happy. That's why I look at those nightmare trainee shows, because I can always pick which ones are going to have a real legitimate shot at making this shit. And that's amazing. That's amazing. You dreamed of doing good shit. Of course you dreamed about doing it in WWE and whatnot, but my point is, you dreamed of doing good shit. And maybe you had to compromise in some way, but just because you're wrestling for an indie doesn't mean you can't continue to do great shit and care about what you're doing and be creative. In fact, this is the time when you're on the indies where you can be the most creative. And whether it's Skrilla's freaking promo, which was amazing, and now's invited responses, whether it's Tyler Culprit reinventing himself, whether it's guys coming upon a gimmick that really works and sells merchandise like All-Star Special, all of that is wonderful, and all these people who get booked. And for everybody who wants to separate the world amongst real shows and shit shows, and I'm one of those people that do that, I would not deny for a second that it's great that people have a million different places to wrestle. I mean, every weekend, Rob Rod reports it to us, right? There are 19 or 20 shows running within 3 hours of Atlanta or whatever the fuck. It's incredible. It's incredible. But the reason for distinctions of real shows and shit shows is simple. Because it is not most wrestlers' dreams to work endlessly at a shitty show. I don't care how many people are watching. If that's the beginning and the end of your dream, to just get in the ring, then fine. Then fine. Why am I bringing all this up? Because what I don't want is for wrestlers to debase themselves. And I'm sorry. When I look at all the wrestlers who are getting their nipples hard for being signed to Valdrick's games and that indie wrestling game, when all that thing is going to be is like the AEW general manager game from the looks of it. This is not a thing where you're going to do motion capture and you guys are going to wrestle again. Like you're going to get to play yourself and wrestle against somebody. It's not that at all. And that's fine. And, you know, this thing of like the game is going to come out November 2022. Well, they gave themselves more than a year. And I read the story of the guy who's making the game, and it's very sweet. But for the wrestlers who are saying, I'm going to be in this video game. Oh, I'm living my dream. Oh, this is so great. Come the fuck on. Am I saying that this game will not happen? I'm saying it probably won't. But even if it does, is that your dream? I doubt it. So don't sell your dream out. Does that mean that you can't be happy that you're in a video game? You can be happy that you're in a video game that may or may not happen. Sure. But it doesn't mean anything, and it doesn't give you any money, and it is what it is. I'm just alarmed because when I see that many people getting that hyped, and you're like, Steve, why can't people just enjoy something? Yeah, you can enjoy something, but quit being so fucking delusional. Wrestling, by and large, is still filled with people who are fucking running game. And even if they're well-intentioned, it doesn't mean they're not running game. And this fucking thing is running game. Because there's nothing for it yet. And quite frankly, some people would look at the list of the people that are on it from the top to the bottom and go, meaning, it's not just because they're indie names, but let's be real. If anybody can get on this game, and from the looks of it, anybody can get on this game. Just fill out the thing. Because right now, that's the only form of advertising they have of people who are jacked up about being in this game and promoting that. If anybody can be included, then it's really like nobody's being included. If everybody's special, nobody is. Does that mean it's not cool? I mean, full disclosure, that's the name of this thing, right? Full disclosure, Georgia Wrestling History was asked to be a part of it. And that is what it is, and that's cool and all. But just take it from someone who's been around pro wrestling since 1993, so do that math, 28 years. A lot of ideas that were super energetic that never came to fruition, a billion of them. People go, why are you so harsh to IWN? Because I've seen that fucking story before. And what I haven't seen is something of the IWN model that actually made it. What I haven't seen is something from the Championship Wrestling from Atlanta model that made it. I haven't. They're going to have to change. And I don't see the impetus to change. I see the impetus to argue circles and engage in semantic battles instead of going, this isn't working, this isn't working, this isn't working, it has to change. I have every belief that the guy with Valtrix Games in this indie game is well-intentioned. What I don't see is anything that resembles something that would have made me happy when I was actively wrestling. Beyond, ooh, my name's in a game. It's for the PC and Mac through Steam. Okay. What's it going to look like? Am I going to get to play and wrestle? No. If I was a wrestler that had a shot, I would be much more attuned to trying to get in AEW and get in a fucking video game where your friends and family and everybody else can play you. And if you're someone that has a legitimate shot of making that happen, for God's sakes, put your eyes on that prize. And quit pretending. Quit pretending that you've hit some kind of milestone because you sent your name to an email and they said okay. Is that harsh? Sure. But I'd much rather have you fucking shoot for the real goals that will really fulfill you instead of just acting happy. Look at the list of the people that are quote unquote signed to that game and tell me I'm wrong. You can't. Don't fucking sell out your dreams. You can modify them, you can change them, but for God's sakes, don't pretend. Don't pretend a pig is a fucking prom date. And for God's sakes, don't settle for the pig being your prom date, because that's what I'm seeing. You're better than that. Unless you're not. And that's up to you. This has been Full Disclosure.